10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello. So, test mic test. Sound check. Okay. So, good evening, mga kaspat. So, welcome to another live blog for MSprat Presents. So, for today, it will be a special blog because I'm very thankful. Um, our guest speaker allowed me to accepted the invite for this blog session. So for today, we'll be discussing a branded solution named Nice and focusing on the workforce management solution. So uh, I think I can start by sharing my screen now. Okay, give me a minute here. There you go. Hoping you can see my screen now. Okay, so I think you can see my screen. Shout out to our viewers. We already have 10 viewers. So shout out to our 10 viewers. So I can see multiple comments on the chat box now. Thank you for your support. So shout out to Happy Hearts 78. Shout out to Angelito Melamina. So I hope I pronounce your name right. Okay. So I think I can start now. So our agenda for today will be um, as I mentioned a while ago, we'll be focusing on the NICE contact center workforce management solution. Then a brief introduction of the speaker. Then let's discuss what is workforce management. Why do companies need to buy workforce management? What specific industry or verticals can use workforce management? Um, oh, my screen stopped. Sorry. Let me go back. There you go. Um, Summary of features focusing on the NICE workforce management and what will be the differentiator of the NICE workforce management. So shout out to Glenn Caracas and Jean Claudio. Thank you for joining in. So we have now, let me check. We have now 12 viewers. So moving on. Okay, so as mentioned on my previous blogs, MSpot Present focuses on IT technology, trends, solutions, and it can also be a platform for your issues or concerns related to IT. So whenever you have some IT problems and you want someone to troubleshoot it for you, you can email me and let MSpot do the troubleshooting. If in case it's not within my current capability, I'll find the right resource to solve that issue. Now, the goal of MSpot is to give information, awareness, and idea to everyone uh, for related to new technologies. What are the current trends and what are the my interests? So, moving on, I would like to introduce to you uh, Phil Ford Phil Ford. Yes, so he's been in the corporate industry for 25 years now, and focusing on the workforce management. He's been focusing on workforce management for 18 years. So with related certification on project management and application development. So I'm so honored and privileged to welcome Phil Ford on this blog. So, Phil, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Thank you so much for accepting this invite.
Kumusta ba yaw at
Wow.
magandang gabi?
Magandang gabi. By the way, Phil can uh, talk
Kon, kon,
Tagalog, right?
konti lang.
Wow. Oh, that's right. So, okay. So, now let's move on, Phil. Any message before moving on? Any message to
Um,
our
I
viewers?
I would just say that when you put up there that I have 25 years of experience, all that means is that I'm really old and I'm growing cowboy.
It has good and bad uh, aspect on that statement, right?
True, true.
Right. Okay. Okay. So, any message related to the nice workforce management before moving forward to the next slide?
I'll just say that one very small clarification. I technically work for, well, as we are called now, NICE CX1. We were formerly
Mm.
known as NICE in Contact, which is a technically a subdivision of NICE Enterprise. But in the end, we're all NICE employees in that sense. So we use the same software. Ours is just cloud based, where NICE Enterprise tends to be more of the kind of legacy premise based version of the software. So, but
Okay.
small clarification, but no, not a big deal.
Thank you so much, Phil. So,
Sure.
moving on.
Yes,
So, can you read the comments on the chat box?
I can see them. Yes.
Okay, so one of them want to greet you. So, Happy Heart 78 said, "Hello, co-host. Welcome."
And hello, Happy Heart 78.
Right. And life in the USA. It's Ate Emily.
Yes.
Okay, so
My spouse.
right.
Mi esposa.
Okay, okay. Guys, for the viewers, let's make this one interactive and fun. So any questions, you can just type it in on the chat box so we can uh, address it in real time. So just type in any questions related to the topic. Okay. Now moving on, Phil, let's first define what is workforce management. So I tried to Google some of the terminologies, and my resource is the Wikipedia. So based on this resource, it says that workforce management is an institutional process that maximizes the performance levels and competency for an organization. The process includes all the activities needed to maintain a productive workforce, such as field service management, human resource management, performance and training management, data collection, recruiting, budgeting, forecasting, scheduling, and analytics. So, to cut the long story short, what is workforce management, Phil?
Right. So I would say that Wikipedia definition is more broad than what people traditionally know as workforce management. I would call what Wikipedia has described a management operating system. In my old
Okay.
in my old career as a consultant, it is all the various tools that a organization uses to manage their workforce, including, as it talks about, human resource policies, your vacation policies, your time off policies, what training tools do you have, all of those various things. From a nice in contact, nice and traditionally what you would call workforce management software, you're really talking about software used to manage a contact center's workforce
Mhm.
specifically. So, small history lesson. You go way back to when people like me were kids. Um, when you called a business, there was actually a human who answered the phone called an operator, right? Who had
Mhm.
a headset similar to what we're wearing, who would plug you in on a switchboard to the various connections. So if you needed to talk to sales, they would disconnect you and connect you in a different port to the salesperson. As time went on, starting in the 1960s, technically, but more accurately in the 70s and 80s, they had what's called ACDs, or automated call
Automatic
distributors, right?
distribution. Right.
And what that does is like you hear today, which is that you would call in and you'd say press 1 for sales or press
Mhm.
2 for tech support. And that got more sophisticated as time went on and eliminated that need for an operator. Um, as that went on, the need for data around that distribution of work needed to become more robust. And that's where
Mhm.
workforce management steps in. The primary job of workforce management in particular is to make sure you have the right number of agents with the right skill scheduled at the right time to
Mhm.
handle the call timely and in a quality manner, that
Mhm.
at a high level. And it could be a call or a text or an email or any of the various channels that can come in, but primarily people think of calls into a contact center. But that's what workforce management is that's its primary tool. Now, most workforce management suites today are part of a larger suite that includes
Enterprise.
QA, call recording, speech to text analytics, surveys, etc. Right, all those various tools that companies use in a broader sense, which might be called uh, workforce engagement
Mhm.
in a broad sense. But workforce management, in particular, in the context we're talking about, is forecasting and scheduling agents. That's really
Mhm.
what it's about. So it's not about analyzing my total call volume, it's the volume that agents handle. So if I have self service portals, right? If you want to know what your balance on your account is, you call the bank. If you want to know what your current balance is, press 6. You press 6, it gives you the total and you hang up. You never needed an agent. Forecasting and scheduling and workforce management doesn't care then about that call. It ignores it.
Mhm.
All right. So that's what workforce management is to me. All right.
Nice. Very well said. So,
Mm-hmm.
before moving on, I would love to play a short video clip related on what you said
Sure.
on scheduling and forecasting.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's play it now. Oh, sorry,
9,
not this one. There you go.
NICE Workforce Management is a proven industry leader in cutting costs while gaining customer satisfaction. Forecasting is all about finding the balance between improving service without overstaffing. But how do you predict staffing requirements against projected workload for a given call type when you're using SBR? So many new factors to be considered. And then you deal with multi-channels and the back office special needs. Confused? Well, our patented workforce management isn't. NICE's workforce management forecasting engine gives you the most accurate estimates for incoming volume, used channels, and needed skill sets. The smart system has an array of unique algorithms to simulate requirements for each point of contact, including back office, using your exact routing rules. It can also accurately project long-term recruiting and hiring needs. Our commitments to innovation and customer satisfaction are the reasons, year after year, world-class analysts rank NICE's workforce management as one of the best approaches for reducing labor expenses while maximizing service quality. NICE Workforce Management, the power to manage your workforce.
There you go. That's for the forecasting. And another one for scheduling.
How do you boost customer satisfaction, reduce labor costs, and engage employees across the organization? With NICE Workforce Management, offering the most complete and configurable workforce management solution. Unlike many other workforce management solutions, NICE Workforce Management lets you select the approach that best suits your operation. It has the ability to optimize meeting times and durations per skill, so customer service impact is minimized. And easy drag and drop schedule modification. You can set policies to match local regulations and company rules, fixed shift quota rules to support work-life balance, and determine clearly shift assignment order and time off policies to allow automated approval for employee requests corresponding with the guidelines. This alone will save you a lot of time. In the WebStation portal, agents can easily view their schedule, bid for shifts, request time off, and view their time off status. The agent's ability to influence their schedule results in high engagement levels. Availability points allows company to meet their goals while providing a lot of flexibility to the agent. Our commitments to innovation and customer satisfaction are the reasons, year after year, world-class analysts rank NICE's workforce management as one of the best approaches for reducing labor expenses while maximizing service quality. NICE Workforce Management, the power to manage your workforce.
There you go. So going back to our topic, which is defining the workforce management, and you already defined it, Bill. Thank you so much for that. So I just have some.
If I can say one trivia question for the people on the phone.
Okay.
A lot of people will ask, why is the company named NICE?
Oh,
right, because it's
right.
It's an odd name.
Right.
It was founded in 1986 by the name Neptune Intelligence Computer Engineering. And so hence it's an acronym for the original company name. Now they no longer go by that name. It's just NICE Ltd now. But it was technically started by 7 former Israeli army officers, and they focused on actually security and national defense issues, but branched out into what we have today. So just a little trivia question, right? It actually NICE actually meant a name at one time. So.
Thanks for that, Phil. So it's abbreviated company name.
Right. Yeah. But that Neptune Intelligence name doesn't exist anymore. It's now just, it's like KFC used to mean Kentucky Fried Chicken. It's now just KFC. Same thing with us. It used to be Neptune Intelligence, etc., but now it's just NICE. So
that's right. So it's part of the history now. Yep. Okay. So now just have some, I think, a few questions related to workforce management.
Sure.
So based on what I understand, after you define workforce management, Oh, shout out to Michael Joseph Notarte. Oh, okay. So I think when you say Mike, that I thought it was because of the product experience. Oh, the name Nice is because of the auto.
Well,
Okay, okay.
hopefully. Yeah.
For me, nice means the price is nice.
I
Okay,
have I don't do sales, so I have no.
okay. So going back to my question, so by the way, Mike is doing nice in contact. He's part of our team doing nice in contact. So on the contact center implementation side.
Okay, good.
So, so I think more of my teammates will jump in because they're interested related to the workforce management too.
Sure.
Okay. So going back to my question now. Uh, oh, before Mike is working to one of your biggest competitor, Berint.
Well, I plead guilty. I worked there too
Oh yeah,
for
yeah.
8 years. So,
Before joining RC, he worked with Berint, and I think he's doing workforce management at Berint. Is that right, Mike? Just type in your answer, or you want to jump in? We can brainstorm here. Okay, so moving on to my question. So, based on what I understand after you define the definition of workforce management, to put it simpler, if an employee or a company having 2,000 employees or agents is a good example for the scenario. So then productivity is very crucial to that company. So uh, in a day, they're expecting 500 calls per day, and and one day, um, 10 or 15 agents did not go to work. So based on what you define workforce management, the tool will compute the best agent to replace the absent uh, employees. Is that right? Is that a good example for this workforce management tool?
uh, yes, what you've kind of described is kind of the initial forecast, and then a term we would call shrink, which is the 15 people or 25 people not showing up, or however many you said. And then intraday management to then readjust that demand versus availability and redo the schedules potentially to match and better match and balance given that scenario. So that's pretty much day to day what a workforce manager does.
Okay. So what will be the best criteria to compute? For example, you don't have a tool like NICE workforce
Mhm.
management. What will be the criteria or the formula to compute the forecasting and scheduling stuff?
Yes. First of all, I see that Glenn Caracas asked a question about NICE WFM. Can it handle case management? It can.
Mm.
It can. In From a technical perspective, the NICE WFM. So whenever I give an answer about NICE, I'm speaking about NICE in Contact in particular. NICE in Contact consumes only what's in the NICE CX1 ACD. So if that case management volume is reflected within the ACD, NICE in Contact software can consume it and then forecast and manage to it. If it's on
Mm.
a third party system, then it would be a manual intervention type of thing. But yeah, from a technical perspective, it can handle it, but there's some technicalities that it has to be in our ACD, which it could still you could still be working it in the third party system, like we have Salesforce connectors and things like that. That if they've got cases over here, as long as that can be kind of work item routed into the ACD, it can then show up in the WFM and handled there. So to answer his question, but your question, right? Criteria. Um, so my kind of general rule is this: is that if you are a very small center, certainly less than 20 agents or less, maybe even as high as 50 agents if it's not particularly complex. Frankly, don't buy a workforce management tool. It's overkill. You're buying a super fancy calculator to manage 20 people sitting directly in front of you. You don't need it. Get an Excel spreadsheet and figure it out. It's much simpler. But once you kind of get above 20 and certainly above 50 agents, you're now getting into complex enough work environments and the infrastructure involved, all the PCs, the laptops, the phones, etc., that you need to be certain you're getting your return on your investment in terms of those people's work, right? So I'd say that's kind of my threshold for saying that you need some type of a WFM solution. And it's to address some of those questions you asked about intraday management, but it's also being able to ask questions like, well, if my volume is going to go up 20% in the next 6 months, do I need 20% more agents? Well, it depends on the mix of the calls and how long they take and the service level and all those various elements that are taken into consideration in workforce management to say, well, maybe I can do it with 15. Maybe I have enough excess headcount in another area that if I cross train them, etc., I only need to hire 15 people to handle that 20% exit volume, not necessarily 20 extra people in my 100-person call center, right? Same thing with downsizing, right? I've worked as an administrator myself. I worked in a center where we were super seasonal. Christmas time, volumes through the roof, on the order of 300% higher than the rest of the year for only about 8 weeks. So how do I judge how many people I need in that 8-week time frame, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's almost impossible to do in an Excel spreadsheet, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can get close, but not particularly close, right?
Not accurate.
Right. And that's because Excel spreadsheets and things like that are usually working off what's called an Erlang C calculation.
Right.
And what that means, a guy named Erlang developed a queuing theory algorithm years ago, mathematical formula for those who don't know what an algorithm is, technically over 100 years ago. And it was initially designed for banks. And how many clerks do I need in a bank if my line is 10 people deep versus 15 people deep? So it's a very simplistic sort of math, right? It gets you close to what you need. And if you've only got 12 agents, it's probably close enough, right? But you got 120 agents, the errors it could cause in inaccuracies become really large at that point. Right. And that's because it doesn't account for things like a call that might abandon, right? Mm-hmm. There's no factor for that in there, or a call getting blocked because you've got agents who are too busy and people hang up, right? And that type of stuff. It assumes single skilled agents. Most modern agents have multiple skills and sometimes omni-channel, right? Which is one of the things our tool can do, which is that they're handling texts, chats, and calls all at the same time. Right?
Voice and non-voice.
Yeah, exactly. So, and Erlang C simply can't account for that. And because of that, it tends to kind of silo the work and it overstaffs you, right? So if you had a large center and you tried to do it on an Erlang C calculation, say 1,000 agents, right? It might say you need 1,100. Now you're overstaffed by 100 people, right? Which, with benefits and everything else and the infrastructure involved, that's a lot of money to not deliver any better service than what you would do with just 1,000, right? Hence why then I think that's where you kind of get into that criteria of that's when we need a WFM solution. I mean, whichever one it is, it could, ours or whoever's. You need something more than a spreadsheet at that point.
Right. For me, you answered the question. So let me just translate some of the definition in our own language so the viewers can understand, if it's okay with you.
Sige.
Okay, thank you, Phil. So, mga kaspat, based sa sinabi ni Phil, dinefine niya yung workforce management. So, nagbigay siya ng manual uh, reference na calculator, which is the Erlang calculator. If you're doing manual calculation, but yung accuracy nito, lalo na sa modern days contact center, is not that accurate. Depende pa yon sa number ng agents or number ng employees na gagamitan mo ng workforce management. So, pero based on sa definition, tama yung definition natin na more on the scheduling and forecasting yung ginagawa ng tool. Marami pa siyang kayang gawin. It can do many more stops, but based on our current context, it can do that. Okay, there's a question here, Phil. What is the typical size? Actually, he answered this a while ago, if I remember.
Bente.
Oh.
Bente. Anything about Bente, at least consider.
Yeah. Tagalog. Mga kaspat, Tagalog sinagot ni Phil. 20. So, yeah. So, anything below 20, I think a supervisor or a contact center manager can handle. But as your contact center becomes complex and grow, that's the time you need to plan on getting a workforce management tool. Is that right, Phil?
Yes, and even if I said like maybe 20 to 50, if you're only handling one or two call types and you've got 30 agents, you're probably still okay. But it's like what you end up lacking is, especially if you're thinking of growing, right, over the time, and you're currently 20, and you think, well, in a year from now, we're going to have this new customer and this new customer, and we're going to need to be here, but I don't know where here is, right? Mm-hmm. That's where a workforce management tool will start to give you that insight to say, well, you could cross-train some people and other people, and this is what, all those various tools and insights to tell you need 35, not 42, right? And then you save the head count of the 7 additional people kind of thing.
Right. So, in addition to that, Phil already discussed that as your contact center become complex, you have more and more data to consolidate. So, one of the use of the workforce management tool is consolidate all the data and present that into a form of a report or dashboard. So the supervisor or the contact center manager can easily review and assess what will be the next step or plan in making your contact center more effective. So a while ago, Phil already discussed some of the functionality, but later on we'll get more deeper on that. So I think we're okay with the definition, right, Phil? We can move on to the next slide.
Sure.
Okay, thank you so much, guys. Just type your questions if there are more questions there. So here is a slide for our viewers that is not familiar with Gartner. Gartner is the #1 IT research company doing some benchmarking. And their report is very influential to companies. So whenever a company is doing some benchmark on a specific category, they one of the search item they do is go to Gartner and see who is the top the leaders on that category or field. So as you can see, the latest Gartner for 2020, and this is published last February 2020, is as you can see, the leaders quadrant is nice, followed by Birint.
Yeah, there's actually a one that was a little bit more recent that came out just, I want to say within the last month, and we're still up #1 in that top quadrant. I think Genesis has actually potentially passed NICE recently to be #2. I actually, because I work for NICE now, I used to work for Verint. I actually have previous experience with both Genesis and Some of the others that are on there when I was an administrator using their software. So my experience goes all the way back to Blue Pumpkin Aspect.
No.
When those were the top hot products to use way back in the mid 90s. I go back that far. So
I could say that we're so lucky we have you here. So when it comes to resource and
mhm,
knowledge specific to our topic, you're the best person to go to.
mhm.
So thank you again, Phil.
No worries. Walang
Okay.
anuman.
Moving forward, guys. So why do companies need workforce management? A while ago, some of the reasons are already provided by Phil, but based on this reference, it's hcmworks.com. So, workforce management includes the effective staffing, forecasting, scheduling, and real time adjustment required for your organization to be as efficient as possible. The objective of workforce management is to get the right number of people and the right workers in the right place at the right time doing the right task. Or as you can see on this slide, Phil almost told us the same wordings a while ago. Right,
Yeah.
Phil?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is what I do with clients when I talk to them about it. I said, this is how many people I need. I need to match it up perfectly. That's what
Right,
workforce management, so that I don't end up like this, right?
right,
Too
right,
many
right,
people at night, too many people in the morning, or I got a gap in the middle of the day. There's
right.
nobody, I need it to match up. And
Removing the gap.
that's the primary job of workforce,
Right.
is to
Agree,
try to,
agree,
to do that match and balance as best as possible.
agree, agree. So I think there's no questions related here. So maybe I can just discuss something to our viewers. As you can see, Phil a while ago discusses contact center. So contact center is a location where you can call and ask for a service, whether it's an inquiry or you need to buy a certain product, so something like that. So now that contact center has voice and non-voice features. Voice will be the customer calling the contact center. The non-voice will be chat and email. That's a good example for that. So all of that stuff will be monitored and consolidated on the workforce management tool. So that's
Hmm.
to make it more clearer to our audience. I just want to define the contact center part before moving on to the next slide. Okay, so I guess we can move on now. Okay, so same reason why do companies need workforce management? As you can see, forecasting, scheduling, managing a day-to-day basis. So
Yeah, and if it's a robust workforce management tool, which most of them are, you also have the ability to do kind of what if scenarios and longer term capacity planning within that tool too. So you can say, well, where do I want to be 2 years from now, 6 years from now? What's my forecast plan for the entirety of the upcoming year, type of thing.
it
Right?
also include the onboarding and offboarding of employees, right?
Yeah, you can bake some of that skill management, as people go from junior agents to more senior agents through their life cycle. You can account for some of that in there as well. Yeah.
Oh, I want to add some details on the question of Glenn. Glenn, if you're still there, hope we answered your previous question. But just want to clarify, when you say case management, is you want to integrate with a ticketing tool, or you when you say case management, it's a specific tool. So a good example, if I understand it right, is a ServiceNow. ServiceNow is a
Hmm.
ticketing tool. So if you want ServiceNow to be integrated with NICE, there's some on the marketplace of ServiceNow. You can download connector.
Yeah, there's API connections that
Right.
take place to connect those to each other. Yeah.
Right. So just answer, Glenn, if that's the correct detail you are looking for.
And sometimes case management can even be, in some organizations, still done in like Outlook folders,
Right.
things of that nature. That's a little more challenging to get into any system because primarily
Proprietary.
due to limitations in Outlook, not
Mm.
necessarily anybody's workforce management software. Outlook simply doesn't play nicely with workforce management software for most companies. So usually in that case, you have to find some other means of detailing it. In the old Variant days, it would have been put it in a flat, put the details in a flat file once a day and import it in, type of thing, right? Just a,
Agree.
like comma delimited text file,
Text file.
something like that. So you can still do it that way. It's a little clunky, but it can still happen.
Agree.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can move on now.
Okay.
Next is what specific industry or verticals can use workforce management? Basically, contact center requires work.
My answer is anybody who answers phones
Right.
can have it, right?
So all companies can have
Yeah. So
workforce management.
yeah. So
Okay.
you've got some of the verticals there, but and so I've done a lot of those. Obviously, I've done call centers. I've done airlines, healthcare, hospitals, investment firms, universities, retailers. One of the biggest retailers in the United States is Walmart. They're one of our clients, right? We work with them. Banks, pharmacies, defense contractors. I worked once with a train shipping company here in the United States. They had to schedule train shipments, so they had a center that answered calls to schedule those. We installed software with them. Utility companies, think Meralco in the Philippines, that type of
Right.
thing.
Right.
I forget the water company's name now. I can't.
Manila.
Yeah, Manila. Yeah. So they have a call center too. They could use the software. Even cell phone companies. So a company like you work for Ring Central, right?
Right.
But in America, we've got a large partner here called Verizon, right?
Right.
They provide cell phones, right? My service is through them,
Wow.
but they have their own call centers that people call in with complaints or questions, things about their bill, right? They need some type of workforce management solution in their center, right? So it can any of those agencies, government agencies. I mean, with COVID-19, everybody's starting to work from home. We spun up literally hundreds of companies based around, and some of them around Gartner, like COVID hotlines, vaccine hotlines, that type of stuff, where they had to be literally spun up and ready to go in 2 weeks, right? We did
Right.
that, right? So almost anybody, really. I mean, your graph shows correctly kind of where the bulk of it is, but almost anybody could use it, right?
Any verticals. Okay.
Yeah.
Very well said. So moving on now. Okay. So this is the slide for the summary of features. So as you can see, I
don't think even I can talk to all of those.
Right.
Too many of them.
So I think we can focus on the forecasting and scheduling part. So as you can see, there's a rating based on Gartner related to this summary of features. So if we will look on the forecasting, let me see where is forecasting. Workforce management, there you go. So so the highest score here is 5. As you can see, it's rated 4.4. It's a high score. Then let's see now, scheduling, time management. It's 4.8, almost perfect.
Yep.
So as you, okay, go ahead, please.
No,
Phil.
it's the only thing I was going to kind of add is, and I've been doing it too. It's kind of traditional as we keep talking about inbound calls, and you'll sometimes hear people still call them call centers. one of the biggest differentiators, and I know we're going to get into that in a minute, but one of the things that Nice in Contact does really well is it incorporates those non-traditional channels, right? So not just text and SMS, but also emails, work tickets, case management, as Glenn had brought up earlier, faxes, right? People still occasionally send faxes out there, right?
Right.
But we've also
right.
started incorporating things like social media web chats
Mm.
and that type of stuff. So WhatsApp chats, Facebook chats, those types of things that we can now incorporate into our analytics as well and start forecasting for those also. And the reality is that, and this is another compelling reason, going back to one of our earlier questions about why have workforce management, is that mix is shifting more and more and more to digital and away from
Right.
calls. 10, 15 years ago, most call centers were probably 95% inbound calls and 5% everything else, right? Now, inbound calls for some centers is as low as 60%. And things like SMS, text, and social media channels are 35%, and outbound and everything else is just 5%. So with younger demographics, people my age, right? I'm ancient, right? Readily agree, right? We talked about my 25 years history, which means that, I predate Bill Clinton. I'm that old, right? So people my age and older, we prefer to speak to a human on the phone, right? That's what
Okay.
we like to do. That's what we're used to doing. But people who are in your demographic and younger, right? 35, 30, in their 20s especially, much more adept at, I'll text, I'll
Technology.
chat,
Right.
I'll do it through a web app, right?
Right.
That's the way I don't want to talk to anybody. I just want to do it this way. They'll do it on their
Right.
phone, or they'll do it on their iPad or whatever. And that's going to become more and more the norm as us old folks pass away. Which unfortunately
Knock
happens
on
to all of
wood.
it. Unfortunately happens to all of us eventually. And more young people become more and more tech savvy. Then that's going to be your future as a center, is that you're eventually going to be 40% calls and 60% digital, and then eventually 30% calls and 70% digital, and eventually calls will be almost non-existent, right? So you have to start preparing for that future, because if you don't, you're going to get left behind as a business. Younger people, especially with, and I'm going to use a term that is, I don't like the term, but cancel culture, right? Young people are very quick to be judgmental about a company based on their experience. If they think you're not serving them the way they would like, you're gone, and
Bam.
you're gone forever for them. They'll never do
Right.
business with
Right.
you again. And where older people were maybe a bit more forgiving and we understood problems and we just deal with it, but younger folks tend to be quicker in making that judgment. And you'll see companies all the time who are, they're here one day, they make a bad mistake, and 6 months later you don't hear from them anymore. They're
Right.
gone, right?
I can
And
relate. I can relate to that.
so as organizations, a compelling reason to have a good, robust workforce tool is to deal with that changing demographic, and hence your changing inbound channel volume, right? So you got to be ready for that. You can't sit there and say, we're just going to answer the phone. Well, your phone may never ring, and you're getting destroyed on like a Google review, and you don't even know, have no visibility to it, right?
Right. I
So,
agree.
right.
Actually, we have one question here. If I understand it right, can you integrate on-prem UC or telephony solution like Avaya, Alcatel, Cisco, etc.?
So back to that distinction, right? Nice enterprise, yes, they can certainly integrate with Avaya, Alcatel, Cisco, etc. Right? They can do it. Nice in Contact, as of today, no. I do believe it is a roadmap topic to eventually do that. If you asked our senior leadership, they would say those legacy switches are the past and not the future. So we're not really focused on them. The cloud
Okay.
is the cloud, and eventually the edge is the
Right.
future, right?
Makes sense.
That more and more companies are going to move away from Avaya and Cisco and Alcatel to us or Genesis, right? Because they have a similar feature to us where they have a kind of an integrated suite with an ACD.
Right.
I know Google's got a kind of like really kind of geared for really small centers, sort of ACD
Amazon too.
slash yeah, Amazon. They've got their own small, more geared for very small centers sort of
Right.
tool. But that's our company sees that as the future,
Right.
and that these
That's the
legacy systems
roadmap.
are the past, right? And
Right.
that yeah, sure, we continue to support them today, but for nice and contact, no, we do not integrate with those items. You would need to migrate to our ACD to do it.
Just want to clarify that Nice in Contact is two company partnered or integrated together. Nice and In Contact for the contact center solution. Is that right?
Well, there's Nice Enterprise, which is the Neptune thing we talked about earlier, right? That's the corporate parent headquartered in Tel Aviv, Israel. We are a subdivision of that called Nice in Contact. We were once a separate company called Just in Contact, but our name, and we just literally just recently in the last couple weeks changed our name to Nice CX1. We dropped the In Contact part, so you're going to see that changing on our website and everything over the next several weeks. And we are a cloud only based provider where Nice Enterprise is a bit of a hybrid mix. They have some premise, some cloud. They're a little bit more of a mix, but the trajectory of the entire company is to eventually be cloud only. Now, that may be 2 years from now, 7 years from now. How long the legacy software hangs on, we'll see. But that's the eventual goal: is the entire organization would end up being cloud based.
Okay. I hope that answer your question, Mike.
Without too much nosebleed.
Okay, the next slide discuss about comparison on your two big competitors, which is Berent and Genesis. So as you can see, the rating for Nice is a little bit higher compared to the other two. So as you can see, the score for Nice is around 45% for the 5-star, while Berent is 43 and Genesis is at 39.
Yeah, and having worked for two of those companies and used the software of the third, I can speak to them a little bit. To say this about Verint, right? Verint's product is a perfectly good product. I worked there for several years. That's what initially brought me to the Philippines, actually, and how we met. Right? Is Verint? Verint sent me there on a project. Right?
Just one quick question. Berent is known for the voice logger, right? Not for the workforce suite, or can you confirm?
I think they're actually probably more known for workforce.
Oh, okay.
Their challenge that Verint is dealing with is they at least the last I knew of, they had no cloud option. They are still
on-prem,
all school on-prem, and they are that unless they can find a way to deal with that, they will likely be slowly left behind. Not that, and that's not because their product suite is a bad suite. It has its strengths and weaknesses, like any does, but it's a perfectly fine application in that sense. But it is truly kind of old school premise. Like they don't deal with APIs. They usually use things like where you've got to pull the volume out. If it's not a Cisco switch or a Alcatel switch, if it's non-call related, you've got to pull that data out of that other system, put it in a flat file, and then it gets imported in. It's a bit of an old school clunky sort of process. Now, I'm sure they're working on all that to get APIs and how they can migrate to the cloud. But as of today, that's their challenge, right? In terms of growth long term. Genesis is more similar to us in that sense. They're cloud-based. And if I kind of look at markets, right, Nice in Contact is probably the biggest player in North America and
Mm-hmm.
in the Americas in general. Genesis, because it's been in the cloud space a little bit longer, has a little bit more of an international presence.
Right.
So in places like APAC and EMEA, et cetera, they're probably ahead of us, but we're trying to gain and get there. Their tool suite's it's similar but different, right? Is probably the best way to say it. If I had to, say what's great about Nice in Contact software and why I think it's maybe ranked higher and has that higher Gartner score. And this doesn't mean that these others don't have it, but maybe they don't have the full suite of them or as good of ones as we have. The cloud base, I think, is a big one, especially in the last 18 months.
Right.
When companies starting in March and April of last year had to start sending agents home and they were on a variant-based or something similar premise-based application, they were in real trouble with trying to figure out how am I sending my 2,000 agents home with laptops and VoIP phones to do this work, right? We simply don't have the infrastructure, right? Or you were somebody like the Virginia hotline for COVID, right? And you had to be spun up in literally 3 or 4 weeks, right? We had to go from we're announcing it to we need to be taking calls 3 weeks from now, right? If you're having to build a server room to do all that, not going to happen in 3 or 4 weeks, or it's going to be a mess. Where we could do it because we contract through like AWS and our own set of servers, and we can just spin up another bank in literally hours, and you're up and running, right?
Right. On the fly.
Yeah, so that's certainly one of the biggest things for us is it gives us that, and then just the scalability, right? This is why, as I talked about the company I work for as an admin, why they had moved off premise into Genesis was that they had that really high seasonality, right? So most of the year we had 150, 200 agents. We were a relatively small center. We would hit about middle October and we'd start spinning up to 1,500. Right. And then only have them for about 12 weeks and then right back down. Get my hand back in the mirror. Right back down to 150. Right. And then we'd have a little blip again in the spring where we'd blip back up to about 500 and then back down. But that would only last like 8 weeks.
Right.
Well, if we had to have server capacity in our building to handle that, we would have had so much excess server capacity that most of the time we simply wouldn't be using. It'd be a waste of resources, right? So
operational costs.
Yeah, exactly. So in the cloud, we could just say, hey, next week, Genesis or Nice in Contact, we need 1,500 more agents. Oh,
agree. Totally
ready.
agree.
We're ready. Go for it.
Yeah. I think one more differentiator is Nice has a bundled back and telephony system on the UC side.
Yes.
So Nice in Contact. Right.
Yeah, that was definitely one I was going to bring up. I think the comprehensive suite is a big part for us. So other companies have, like Variant has a fairly comprehensive suite, but because they don't also have the ACD, right, and the upfront call routing and IVR system and all of that as well that integrates with their WFM directly, it makes the integration between the two systems a challenge, right? Where in ours, it's just kind of a, literally a flip of a switch and here comes the data, right? So it's much easier to kind of do it that way. Talking about a couple other things that I think make us maybe a little better in project manager, they call it in IT project manager, time to turn up, right? This is a metric that deals with from, kickoff date to go live, right? How long does that take? The overwhelming majority of our clients, unless they delay it for some reason, we turn up in less than 100 days. And in some cases, we've done it in as little as 2 weeks, right? So it just depends on how fast they want to go. We can essentially adjust and make it happen that quickly too.
I think that the only challenge there is the porting.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, and that's getting the 800 numbers and all
Right.
that sign. That's usually the bottleneck, right? And on the ACD side, on the WFM side, though, because we are a downstream consumer of the ACD, hence the ACD has to be kind of ready before we would even start.
Right.
Is that for us, it's literally it's almost like physical switches. It's not. We technically go into software and change some code, but it's we flip some switches and here's all the agents and here's all the volume showing up. Now you got to do is get it built, and depending on how much effort you as the client want to put in, we can go as fast or as slow as you want to go, right? And then, like I said, in the vast majority of cases, it's 2 months, 2.5 months on average from kickoff of WFM to fully trained and operational.
Right.
But depending on how fast you want to go, I literally spun one up for a COVID hotline in 14 days. Got the kickoff on a Monday, and 2 Fridays later they were live. Right. So so it can happen. We also are integrating things like AI and machine learning now into our forecasting algorithms and scheduling algorithms, which I think we do probably a slightly better job than some of our competitors do at doing that. That's especially useful as we're bringing on omni-channel routing, right? Of trying to figure out, if Phil the agent's going to take 2 chats while taking a call, right? Is making sure the algorithms have accounted for that, where a lot of older systems don't do that very well. They're much more siloed than
that's for multi-skilled agent.
Yeah, multi-skilled, and we call it omni-channel, right?
Omni-channel
is that if you've got the agents who can do the work, now that's always the challenge, is onboarding and training the agents, right? But if they can do a chat and a web interaction and calls at the same time, our software can route it that way,
right?
And we can forecast it and schedule it that way,
right?
To account for that multi-skilled coverage, right?
And
that allows us that linkage up that I kind of did before, right? It does that. We got a lot of interactive tools in the video you showed about employee engagement and interaction,
right?
From web station to shift bidding to trade, shift swaps and trades to time off management requests. We have a module that's fairly recent called EEM, Employee Engagement Manager. It's an app on your phone where you actually can see your schedule and make schedule requests and schedule bids and trades right on your phone, right? You don't have to even log into the web station application. And then the last one is that bit we talked about earlier about the changing demographic and changing profile of your channels, going more and more digital over time. We're fully on board with that and already engaged in it today, which I think puts us a little bit ahead of a lot of our competitors. So, and then you throw in the full suite of tools, right? QA, feedback management, speech to text, right? Text analytics, etc. We've got all those tools as well. That kind of gives us kind of that full suite, right? Which some clients, other people don't have at that level. So
also, I think Mike throw in a statement here. It was only realized that the cloud technology was the savior of the economy when we hit the pandemic. So
Michael is absolutely right.
I totally agree.
There were a lot of people, and maybe given its history, rightly so, hesitant to jump into cloud.
Right?
Because from
conservative,
from all the different hacks and everything else that go on that we hear about in the news all the time, it makes you worried. Like when it's physically in my server room, I know where the data is, right? When it's on your servers somewhere else, I
cannot control that.
Right. And that can lead to hesitancy. But not only from a telephony / work from home flexibility standpoint did the cloud save the back butts of a lot of companies, right? There's also, now that they've been doing it for a year and a half of work from home, a lot of companies are starting to understand the benefits of work from home, which cloud makes much easier to do. right? They're starting to notice that their absenteeism is going down because
Right.
people are not calling off sick because they have nowhere else to, they're not going to go home and be sick. They're already
Right, right.
home, right? So they don't call off sick as often. And then also the one little thing you'll hear CEOs still today talk about it, like, we like to have everybody in the office so we can have these interactions. Well, frankly, for a lot of call center agents, those interactions are a distraction and they
Right.
keep me from getting back on the phone or a text or SMS or whatever, right? The channels discussion, and doing my work. And because I'm at home, right? You're not walking up to me, or my buddy's not coming up going, "Hey, what are we going to do for lunch?" And I'm on after call. I'm on after call work talking to my buddy for 4 minutes, right? It doesn't happen when I work from home,
Right,
right?
right, right.
So I'm more available, and hence I can take more volume. And they're finding their agents are actually more productive from home than they
Right,
are in the
right.
office. So that's
Mhm.
insights that the cloud helps.
Asa to understand.
Yeah, it helps bring to the surface that companies are
Right.
more and more seeing, right? So a lot
Mhm.
of them, even though they're starting to open their offices back up, are going hybrid, right?
Right,
So they're going like, well, we can work from home some days and work at the office some
right,
days,
right, right,
little
right.
back and forth. Yep.
Yep. I totally agree with that.
I see
So,
Michael. I see Michael's note here of I was doing nonstop migration when I was
operation
in
when I was
Verint,
in the
transitioning the calls from the BPO office to the agents at home. That was a really huge cost for the company. Yep, absolutely agree,
yeah.
Michael. Very good point.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Investing on the on-prem, then migrating to the cloud, really um, uh, gets your money out of the company.
Hmm. Yeah, and like a lot of the cloud people, we have our own server bank, but we also have like we're contracted through Amazon Web Services, right? So we have a large infrastructure with Amazon, which means that we have servers in Europe, we got them in South America, we've got them in APAC. They're all over. Where we even didn't have to invest in the server, we're just basically renting the space from Amazon in that regard. But that allows us to just, like you said, just we can spin up anybody in as fast as you need spun up, essentially, right? Um, and It also allows us to deal with things like GDPR in Europe,
Mm-hmm.
the data retention things that happen there that are different than the US. You can have the server sitting literally in Frankfurt, Germany, rather than sitting in the United States. And consequently, the data is all handled there. And we can do the rules around GDPR where it's, they got to be forgotten in so many days and that type of stuff. Where in the US, it's not really a concern yet. I think it's coming. As more and more states do that, but you're going to see more and more of that as well that you're going to have to plan for in your systems. And we've already started to incorporate that in our tools as well. Um, So I think in general, the cloud has all of those benefits. And there are still situations where premise is the right answer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Certain governmental functions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like really high secure national defense sort of things might want to be in their own server room and not
Mm-hmm.
dealing through Amazon. I'll give you an odd one. I told you that Walmart's one of our clients, right?
Right.
Walmart, go figure, didn't want to be on an Amazon web server. They're
Mm.
competitors. Right? Amazon sells and Walmart sells the same stuff. They didn't want
Okay, okay.
any of their revenue that was coming to us to end up in Amazon's hands.
They
So
will
they
have the
insisted
data.
they be on one of our home servers. Right?
Mm,
So
okay,
but we
got
could
the
do that
point.
because we have that flexibility, right?
Right, 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 right. Now, before going to the last slide, let me just check. Okay, so maybe I'll try to. There's a message here. Oh, thank you, Ati M. So for the message,
Mm-hmm.
mega love, shout out to all. Have a great day, guys. So okay, so let me share the final message before you provide your own feel. So
Mm-hmm.
um, to all the viewers here, if your current company has, let's say, the figure field provided 20 or 50 below, then they have challenges managing the employees, the interaction from your contact center, getting data and consolidating the information, something like that. Um, and you think your requirement becomes more dynamic every day, you need to plan on how to get a workforce management tool because it will help the manager or the supervisor organize the contact center, the employees, and make the ROI more faster for the company. So I think that's my message to our viewers. I'll let the final message to Phil. Shout out to Gerald Maso. Okay, so hi, thank you for tuning in. Okay, so I'll let Phil do the final statement to individuals or companies having second thoughts in buying a workforce management tool.
Sure. And thank you for the folks in the chat. Your questions have been great, by the way. And Michael, yeah, or as your what are you known online again? What's the Mr. M Spot? Should I call you
Um,
that?
yeah,
um, Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate the time. So, just kind of as a closing statement, the one thing I would always say, we talked about 20 versus 50 agents and insight and data and all of that's correct. There's nothing incorrect about any of that. But I would say before any company jumps into a solution, right? Because they're not cheap. Let's be honest. It's not a cheap investment to
enterprise price.
to any kind of workforce management solution, including ours, which is cloud-based, where you're not having to buy the infrastructure. It's still not cheap as an organization to invest in it. You're going to have a monthly recurring cost based on your usage, et cetera, right? Depending on how the contract's written. But do an analysis internally of what do you want to get out of the workforce management solution, right? What are the key drivers for your business that we need to have data on that we don't have today, right? And then your due diligence of comparison shopping your various options to say, this is what we think is the right one to go. And then you'll have your conversations with salespeople who will tell you that, their software is the greatest software in history and you should buy it. But then you have to make that rational judgment. You need to know what your priorities are as an organization. Is your priority cut cost, improve quality, a combination of those two? Hey, we're a BPO operation sitting in Manila. We know we're going to have 7 more clients in the next 18 months. Our call center is going to ramp up from 50 agents to 500 agents probably in the next 18 months. We need a tool, anything, so, what do we need to get out of it in terms of
Right.
data, feedback, analytics, and then end user usage? And that's not only management, that's the agent UI interface with the application and what are they going to get out of it too,
Right.
and take all of that into consideration when you're making that kind of purchasing or switching from premise to cloud type decision, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Phil. So, I'll take this opportunity to once again, uh, uh, my sincere thank you to Phil, my brother-in-law. Stay safe there, and together with ATM. So, as you can see, there's a message here. Hope we can get more live stream nice CX1 discussion with Phil in the future. Okay. So as long I think Phil is not busy, but I think there are a lot of implementation and projects there, right,
Yeah.
Phil?
Yeah, just don't get me up too early on a Saturday. That's all I ask.
Okay. I'm so sorry for that.
No, it's fine today. 10
Okay,
a.m. is fine, but no
Okay.
6 a.m. for me. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Again, thank you, Phil. So stay safe there. You and Ate Emily. This means a lot for me. I sincerely appreciate this, accepting this vlog. So to all our viewers, thank you so much. Mike, please work it out. Okay, so someone is uh, hoping that I can invite you again. So let me talk to Phil on
I'd be happy.
offline.
I'd be happy to do it again. We'll pick up quiz your viewers and find out if they want a particular topic, and we can maybe,
Right,
because today was pretty general, right?
right.
And I always have to be a little careful, right? I can't speak for my company, right? I'm not
Right.
legally
There's
allowed to,
non-disclosure. Yeah.
right? That type of stuff. So we just need to pick a particular topic, and we can go maybe a little more in depth on that topic, sort of thing, right?
Oh, Phil, remember Orlando? Orlando is here.
Yes. Hello, Orlando.
So there you go. So
Kumusta, kuya?
yeah. Okay. So thank you so much, Phil and Mike, for this opportunity. So there you go. Thank you, Mike.
Maraming salamat back to you. Walang anuman. Enjoy your day or evening in
Oh,
your case. Get some sleep.
right. So it's getting late in the Philippines now. So for the viewers, thank you so much. I hope you learned something about workforce management, and I think Phil in some way discuss it on a layman's term or a more general explanation, all related to workforce management.
Yeah. And hopefully not too much nosebleed. I'll bring tissues next time.
Okay. Actually, I have a tissue here, and it's full of blood now. Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
nosebleed.
Okay. Thank you so much, Phil. Uh, that's uh, that's we uh, ha- um, how will I say this? Within my heart, I truly want to say thank you to you. Okay.
It's my pleasure. You're welcome. And glad to chip in. It's been fun.
Okay. Thank you so much, Phil. The viewers, hope you tune in
Who's
again to the
who's
next.
who's this gem girl telling me I'm handsome?
Oh. Okay. Shout out to Gem Girl 08. I think Gem Girl has a crush
I,
on Phil.
I'm not pogy. I'm not pogy. No, no pogy. What's that? What
Okay.
I'm trying to? I'm pangit. I'm not pogy.
No. That's not true.
Yes. Okay.
Ate Emily will not get you if you're not pogi.
Well, I hope you're right.
Okay. So, look, someone answered.
That is the wife of the host. Ha ha ha.
Okay. So, again, thank you, everyone. Oh,
Yes. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
so I'll give back Phil's time. So if there are no more questions, I'll give the time to Phil now. Any more questions, guys? Or you just comment on the chat box or on the comment box so I can forward that. Or if I can answer the question, I can answer and email you the question. Okay? Thank you again, guys.
Very
Thank
good.
you, Phil.
Take care, everybody. Ingat.
Bye. So
Bye.
please tune in to our next blog. Okay. I'm trying to schedule IP addressing and subnetting for the next blog. Okay.
Sounds like a good
So
topic.
right. Thank you,
All right.
Phil, again, and to
Ingat.
all the viewers. Bye. Stay safe.
Ingat, everybody. Bye bye.
Bye.